G'day team, welcome to another tiny build scale modeling video. Today we're going to be painting up our second ANZAC figure from the Siege of Tobruk. If you haven't seen my part 1 video where I paint up the first figure and their heads, you can go check that out now. I'll leave the link below. Now in this video we'll be painting up our second figure and I'll be showing you also how to weather at the end. With that being said, I'm Regan, let's jump into it. So first up we want to give it a black primer. This is going to help the paint to stick later on. After that, we're going to give it a ghost grey primer from the top down. This is going to help highlight those high areas and give some contrast. After that, we want to spray paint some khaki onto the shorts and the jacket of this figure. Make sure you get all the nooks and crannies. To paint up his socks, we're going to use a 50-50 blend of olive drab and khaki. It's going to give that wool look. After that, we're going to paint his shoes in with some German camo black brown. If you make any mistakes, just fix them up. Then we're going to dry brush his laces. Wipe off most of your paint on a paper towel. In this case, I'm using khaki. And then you're going to dry brush over the high areas of the boot, and that's going to paint in his shoelaces like so. We'll use olive drab to paint in his scarf. And then we'll use German camo beige World War II to paint in his webbing and his harness. Next, we'll move on to the gun. We'll paint flat earth on the wooden parts of the Bren Machine Gun. Then we'll come back with some black and paint in all of the other metallic bits of his gun. This might look bland at first, but we're going to come back with a dry brushing technique very soon and it'll make it look much more gunnier. We'll use that same black to paint in the frames of his desert goggles. And then of course, like our other figure, we'll use green brown to come in and paint those lenses. Be super careful painting these, they're tiny. If you make a mistake, just go back in a couple of minutes once it dries, paint over it and fix it up. We'll take out flat earth one more time and paint in his belt and his sidearm holster. If you're forgetful like me, we'll take out the camo beige World War II again and paint in the harness for his webbing. I completely forgot to, hopefully you didn't. For his knife, we're going to use some Tamiya X10 gunmetal. I think it gives a good steel look for a big machete. Now we'll get in with some white aluminum and do the same dry brushing technique that we used on the laces. We're just going to highlight those raised edges of the gun, giving it a bit of a worn look. We're nearly there. Next, we're going to use flat flesh and paint in his knees and his hands very carefully. If you make any mistakes, like I said, go back, fix it up. It's all good. It's part of the hobby. This is what we have so far in our build. Before we move on to our weathering stage, we're going to pop his head off the sprue and we're going to super glue it onto the body like so. Off camera, I went back and quickly painted in his belt buckles and buttons with some white aluminium. It might look very stark at first, but once we weather it, it's going to dampen it down and it's going to make those details pop. To start our weathering process, we're going to chuck intermediate gauzy agent from AK Interactive on. Next, we're going to use an enamel dark wash. Mine is from Emomig, but you can use any brand you like or whatever you have laying around. We're going to wash it all over the figure from toes all the way up to his head and hat, making sure everything is washed. Then we're gonna take some enamel odorless thinner and we're gonna start washing. You'll notice when we use this, all of the wash kind of runs away from the enamel odorless thinner and from the paintbrush. That is great, that's what we want. This process is more about what you take off rather than what you put on. I personally like to make my models look very grimy, like they've been in the field for a while. Once we're nice and happy with how the model is looking, we're gonna leave it dry for at least a few hours. Once it's fully dry, we're gonna finish it off with some Ultra Matte Lucky Varnish from MOMIG, and there you have it, our figure's done. If you wanna see how to paint up his buddy, head on over to my other video. I'll link it in the description. As always, if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and leave a comment below, and I'll see you next time.